Welcome back to the France 24 News Desk. I'm Jeannie Godula in Paris. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Protesters take to the streets of Myanmar for a 10th day in a row. Their movement growing against the military coup. Deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi still held under house arrest. France meeting 5 African allies today to talk about the ongoing militant insurgency in the Sahel. President Macron hoping to cut back the number of French troops in the region. And as the world is still in the grips of the coronavirus, a new outbreak of Ebola has been confirmed in Guinea. This is the first resurgence of the disease 5 years after Ebola killed 11,000 people in West Africa. Media reports out of Myanmar say security forces have fired to break up protests in the city of Mandalay. Demonstrators turned out around the country now for 10 days against the military coup that deposed de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi. She has since been arrested and was meant to appear in court today, but the military extended her detention. Extra troops have been deployed across the country to try and keep the protests in check, with electricity and the internet being cut off in some places overnight. Sharon Gaffney explains.
Fresh protests in Myanmar's largest city following the deployment of tanks and extra troops to the streets of Yangon and other major urban centres. It's prompted fears that the military is planning a crackdown on demonstrations. On Saturday, the army gave itself sweeping powers to arrest people and search private properties. It's also published amendments to the penal code aimed at stifling dissent. The internet has been restored after it was shut down overnight on Sunday. One activist who wished to remain anonymous told France 24 that people are fearful of being detained at night.
We can see so many military trucks and tanks and some other armored vehicles. We all are traumatized. We are all, as a nation, scared of the dark. Things can go so escalated in a matter of hours.
While demonstrations have been largely peaceful, shots were fired to disperse crowds gathered outside a power plant in the northern state of Kachin on Sunday. Western embassies have since urged the generals to show restraint. It's been just over 2 weeks since the military seized power, ousting the democratically elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Her period of detention on charges of illegally importing walkie-talkies was due to expire on Monday, but has been extended. The move is likely to further inflame tensions between the military and demonstrators who have taken to the streets for a 10th day.
France and 5 allies are meeting today to discuss the jihadist insurgency in the African region, the Sahel. Paris is trying to get support that would let it cut French troop numbers in the region. Leaders of the G5 Sahel, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania and Niger are attending the 2-day summit that's on in Chad, with the French president attending via video link. This meeting comes a year after France boosted its Sahel deployment, seeking to slow the brutal, long-running battle there. Well, to get a bit more analysis on all of this, I'm joined live by Niagalé Bagayoko, the president of the African Security Sector Network. Thank you for joining us. First of all, if you will, give us some context. What is the security situation like in the Sahel region at the moment?
In fact, the security situation is really a matter of concern, because it has been worsening after years and years, and the civilians are targeted by very different kinds of actors, of course, by some jihadi groups, especially by the Islamic State in Great Sahara, but also by local community-based militias, by criminal actors, and also in 2010-20, some units of the defense and security forces have also been found guilty of abuses. So we can also see that the threat and insecurity has been expanded beyond the Sahelian countries themselves. So, in fact, the situation has definitely been worsening, even if some tactical victory have been claimed by the Sahelian states and their international partners.
So given all of that, what are you hoping will come out of this summit today?
I think that it would be absolutely key to have the focus to be put on protecting civilians, because, as I just said, they are definitely the first victims of this violence and widespread violence. And in my view, there is a need to have an approach which will put the security of civilians at the core of what will be decided. This, of course, does not mean that there is no need to fight against terrorist group. Of course, there is a need for this, but it definitely cannot be considered as the only threat in this very complex and multidimensional environment.
There are now some 5,000 French soldiers in the Sahel, a number that the French President Macron wants to reduce. Do you think that that's even possible, given the security situation at the moment?
I think what is important, more than the level of forces which are engaged on the ground, is the political objective which those military effort is supporting. It is absolutely essential, in my view, to define the political objective of this commitment. And today, until today at least, I think that this strategic and political approach was far from clear. So I think that if the military forces, be they national or international, in particular French, have to be reduced. The matter at stake is definitely to make them to be coordinated with the political approach of the Sahelian countries themselves.
What about the United States? It'll also be taking part in these debates with the new Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. Should the U.S. role be bigger in the Sahel?
I don't know if it should be, but it's important to mention the fact that it has been important, rather important in the past years, in terms of intelligence gathering, in terms of supply, and in terms of logistical support. And under the Trump administration, there were rumors according to which the support would be reduced, and it hasn't been. And I don't think that there will be any change from the new administration. But I'm a bit skeptical to the option that the military U.S. presence could be increased in the forthcoming months.
Niagalé, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Niagalé Bagayoko, the president of the African Security Sector Network. Well, as the world is still in the grips of the coronavirus, a new outbreak of Ebola has been confirmed in Guinea. This is the first resurgence of the disease 5 years after Ebola killed 11,000 people in West Africa. Emerald Maxwell explains.
The new cases are in the Niagalé region, the same place where Guinea's last epidemic started. 7 patients fell ill with diarrhea, vomiting and bleeding after attending a burial on the 1st of February. They all subsequently tested positive for Ebola.
Ce matin très tôt, le laboratoire scientifique de Conakry a confirmé la présence du virus Ebola. Donc cette situation met la Guinée en situation d'épidémie.
Fighting Ebola again will place additional strain on health services in Guinea as they battle the coronavirus. Ebola is a lot more deadly, and the health ministry said they were working to trace and isolate the contacts of the new cases. Niagalé proximity to busy borders hampered efforts to contain the virus in the last Ebola outbreak, which between 2013 and 2016 went on to kill more than 11,000 people in Guinea and in neighbouring Liberia and Sierra Leone. Liberian President George Weah put the country's health authorities on heightened alert after Guinea's announcement, which comes 1 week after Eastern DRC confirmed it also had cases. Ghanaian authorities have asked the World Health Organization for Ebola vaccines, which helped efforts to end the second largest outbreak on record in the Democratic Republic of Congo last June. The WHO said it was ramping up its response efforts to this potential resurgence. Last month, it said it was creating a global emergency stockpile of about 500,000 doses of the Ebola vaccine, but only 7,000 were available at the time of the statement.
In Haiti, at least one protester was killed as demonstrations against President Jovenel Moïse turned violent Sunday. Thousands took to the streets in the capital to demand he resign from office. Demonstrators threw rocks at police, who in turn fired tear gas and rubber bullets into the crowd at different points throughout the city. Olivia Bizot has more.
According to these thousands of demonstrators, the Haitian president's 5-year mandate ended on the 7th of February. Appointed in 2015 in a poll called off because of fraud, Jovenel Moïse was re-elected the following year. He therefore believes his mandate should end in 2022. The peaceful demonstration quickly turned violent. Protesters threw rocks at police, who in turn fired tear gas and rubber bullets. Among the crowds were slogans against the United States and the United Nations, accused of supporting the ruling power.
Se terminó el mandato de ex-presidente Jovenel Moïse. Entonces, nosotros pidamos a los Estados Unidos, especialmente embajadora, que respetar a nuestra democracia.
Tensions flared earlier this month after Moïse alleged there was an attempt to overthrow the government. 23 people were arrested, including a Supreme Court judge and a senior police official. The president has been ruling by decree since 2019, when he failed to hold legislative elections, leaving Parliament without lawmakers.
It's now time for Truth or Fake, when we pick apart those fake news stories that have been making the rounds on social media. This week, a video supposedly showing school children in Nigeria fleeing COVID vaccinations. Catherine Bennett from the France 24 Observers explains.
Students panic in Nigeria after an announcement of the vaccine against COVID-19.
Some of our readers contacted us to ask us about a video they'd seen circulating on WhatsApp. The caption said that it showed students at a school in Nigeria running away from getting the COVID-19 vaccine. The first thing you want to know is where and when a video has already appeared online. By typing in keywords, we were able to find the video with the same false claim on Twitter and YouTube. And once we had that, we could then use a free video verification tool called Invid. Invid extracts thumbnails from the video and then sweeps the internet to see where they've appeared before. We found the same video in a Facebook post dating back to May 2019.
An SS2 student in Port Harcourt brought guns and tear gas grenades for a class fight. While showing it off to his classmates, he unknowingly detonated one of the grenades, and all hell broke loose.
We looked up some of those terms online and found an article on the BBC Pidgin website. West African Pidgin English is a language spoken by around 75 million people across West Africa. We translated this article, which says that the event happened in Port Harcourt in Nigeria in 2019. A police spokesperson says a student brought in tear gas which accidentally went off, causing panic, and that's why everyone is running. So this video doesn't show teenagers running away from a COVID-19 vaccination, but from tear gas. And it was filmed in May 2019, long before the pandemic had started and before scientists had even developed COVID-19 vaccines. Check out our website at observers.france24.com to see more fake news that we've debunked. And don't forget to look at our fact-checking guide so you can learn to do it yourself.
You are watching France 24. Let's take a look at today's headlines. Protesters have taken to the streets of Myanmar for a 10th day in a row, their movement growing against the military coup. Deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi still held under house arrest. France meeting 5 African allies today to talk about the ongoing militant insurgency in the Sahel. President Macron hoping to cut back the number of French troops in the region. And as the world is still in the grips of the coronavirus, a new outbreak of Ebola has been confirmed in Guinea. This is the first resurgence of the disease 5 years after Ebola killed 11,000 people in West Africa.